Okay, welcome back to another episode of running the Wasatch 100. I feel like a schoolgirl with a rock star right now.
Right.
Like who are the rock stars right now that the kids? Is it BTS?
The hell's BTS?
Or is it Harry's Style? That's the big one, right?
I guess. I don't even know that. I'm too old for that.
My guest today, I'm very excited for the one, the only legend, Karl Meltzer, the Speedgoat. Welcome to running the Wasatch 100, Karl. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good this morning. We're still training.
Yeah.
Still alive.
Up in the Wasatch.
The Wasatch and White Pine.
Yeah, he needs no introduction, but I will throw out there that he's got more 100-mile wins than anybody on the planet, correct?
Check.
And a streak of 20 years in a row of 100-mile wins.
Yep.
And 6 Wasatch wins, right?
That's right, 6 wins.
Which I think is the most of anybody.
Yep.
So this guy is, he needs no introduction, like I said. So let's go right into it, Karl. Let me ask you a question. Your first Wasatch, a few years ago. Is there something that you did really well looking back on your first Wasatch?
Well, my first Wasatch was my first ultra. Not sure that was very smart. But yeah, I mean, it's you go into a race like that, you don't really know what to expect. You know you're a pretty good runner, but at the same time, my goals weren't super high. They were to break 30 hours. So when I started the race, the one thing I thought I did well, and the key word there is thought, was eat a really large breakfast before the race started, which was a pan of crepes for me. Just because later on that was tough to stomach. But you know, I was a total rookie, so
going right through. I'm soft. I'm the cake eater of the bunch. I'm taking the logs.
your feet don't get strong unless you get them wet. No, I mean, I had a crew of 2 or 3 people, so I didn't overload my crew. That was a good thing. I tried to keep it as simple as possible. I tried to understand the calories. Didn't know what salt was. You know, so many different things I didn't know. But the things that I really did well was that I ran well for 40 miles. And from that point on, it became a nightmare. I mean,
right.
we did a lot of planning and pre-planning and stuff. And, you know, I look back at it now, it's like, I don't really think I did anything really well. But at the same time, I learned more from that race than I learned from any other race, probably.
Right.
About how to execute and how to keep your headspace in it. I mean, it's fair to say, keeping my headspace in it is what I did the best.
Right.
Because when I got to Brighton, I was in 10th place or so. Still great, right?
Yeah.
I had blown up about mile 40 and been walking, but I was still in about 10th. And I had no quit in me.
Yeah.
You know, I was dead tired. I wanted to stop and sit down. I was in Brighton store, sitting on a bench, but my pacer was there, Jim Hopkins, and we said, let's go, and we went. And from that point on, Jim, who was of course fresh, he just wanted me to go faster and faster, and I wasn't really able to go faster and faster.
Yeah. All right, got to get the feet wet.
Right.
It's time.
So you know, he was kind of pushing me along, and we're going along in the dark, and I just remember just Jim leading the way and going through a herd of sheep, and we get to an area called, I think it was called Cascade Springs, the last aid station before you go over a road called the Wall and then into Midway. It ended at the church down there. And Jim and I went straight when I saw a sign that said Wasatch Mountain State Park. And I said, that's the way. It was getting light out, 5 a.m., 24 hours into it, 7 miles to go. And we went straight. And we walked for an hour and 20 minutes straight, not seeing a marker, just thinking that was the way. Finally realizing, no, this is not the way. So now it's like after 6 a.m.
Ugh.
And this is classic that not many people have heard, that in that particular race, I'm a rookie, I don't really know. Yeah, I read the rules, but we just started, and first car that came down that road from Pole Line Pass, which was the access from that road, I stood in the middle of the road and stopped the car. Stop. I said, I just want to ride back to where we went wrong. We didn't get in the car for any extra distance or anything, but we did get in the car to the corner that we missed.
Right.
And we got out, and then we death marched to the finish.
Nice.
Well, we lost, but
Nice.
again, there was no quit.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That was like,
Yeah.
That's what you got to have if you want to finish the race. Don't go to the start line with doubts in your head.
Yeah.
You have to be excited to run it.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to pan out, but
awesome.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Karl. So someone gets into Wasatch, some schlub, comes up to you and says, "Hey, what's the one piece of advice? If you could just give him one piece of advice, what would it be?"
Best piece of advice I can give anyone is to keep your race simple as possible. Don't overthink it. Keep your crew small, 2 to 3 people, never more than 3. More chaos is more time in the chair if you choose to sit. You want to just go into it being excited and have no quit in your head. And you can get there. It's not even 3 miles an hour, right? So think about that on your next training run.
And 100 miles is?
100 miles is not that far.
Yeah.
That's the key to it.
Yeah.
To believe it.
Yep. Right, Karl, check out these lovely Wasatch single track trails here. Heat at Wasatch, it's a big topic. Seems to always come up. What do you do to train for the heat, prepare for the heat, and how do you run in the heat?
Heat has always been the demise for most runners. It's dehydration, it's just overheating. Your body doesn't process the food because blood's all going to the organ, your stomach gets upset. So how do you combat heat, right? Well, I'm not going to tell you I go out and run in the heat all the time. I don't go sit in the sauna. I just deal with it on race day with heat management. And my process that is, obviously you have to drink fluids, but fluids don't keep you cool. Fluids hydrate you, in my opinion. Ice externally keeps your core temperature cooler by just using a lot of ice.
Yeah.
Ice in the hat, the wrist, the gloves, whatever. You obviously have to drink a little bit more, but you don't overdrink, If you're drinking more than 30 ounces of water per hour, which is a lot, even if it's hot, everyone's different, but for me, that's way too much.
Right.
I'm probably doing 20.
Yeah.
If that. But that's me.
Yeah.
Some people say they're heavy sweaters. I believe they're heavy sweaters because they're drinking too much water.
Right.
It's all excreting out.
Yeah.
It's just how I monitor myself. Like, I've always thought there should be just like a slight sweat on your brow, not pouring down sweat.
Right.
Then you're sort of right on the nose. If you get dry, obviously you should drink a little more. It's a really easy indicator for me to know where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that comes with experience. You're only gonna know that by doing a bunch of them. But that's just one thing. I mean, ice cold towel over your head when you stop briefly. An ice bucket with a sponge is really good.
Yeah.
When you have a cooler with ice, grab a 5-gallon or 5-pound chunk of dry ice, so you always have everything super frozen.
Right.
Every crew have popsicles.
Yeah.
Do things like that are cold.
Yeah.
That make you, make you freeze. And then also, when your crew does see you and they have that opportunity to put that cold water on you, wait till you get that chill,
Yeah.
You start to feel better.
Uh-huh.
And then move on,
Yeah.
But you've got to, if the opportunity exists, I know there aren't many stream crossings at Wasatch, but if it's hot, stop for a second and get yourself wet again.
Yeah.
All those things feel good.
Oh, yeah.
But external cooling is something that I don't think a lot of people do all the time.
Right.
They don't think about it all the time.
Right.
My first Western, it was 106 degrees in the canyons, right?
Yeah.
But Western also has a lot of areas on the side of the trail going down to the river on Cal Street and stuff. There's springs there, a lot of them.
Yeah.
They're actually running, which was crazy, even on a dry year. So I stopped to get myself wet all the time. I never felt hot at Western at all.
Yeah.
I was constantly stopping and doing this. Just take advantage of your opportunities with those situations.
Right. No, that's great. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. So beer, ice cold beer.
Yeah.
Would you ever drink an ice cold beer on the course?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably won't drink afterwards for sure. Probably more than one.
I know my friend Jim Skaggs, he speaks to that, and I'm gonna agree with Karl there. No beer on the course.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't think it's not going to help you run faster. You know, I understand where you're at, but I will say that, you know, I have done a shot at the Kill at Virginia's Pass in Hard Rock, and then later passed Hal Kerner staring into space in Mendota Basin.
Yeah.
And won the race, but that was just, you know, that was just a thing at Virginia's.
Fireball. Are you a fireball guy?
Fireball. With that, yeah. No, I mean, I would shoot anything.
It's a little sweet, right?
Yeah, it's a little sweet, but the tequila was good.
Yeah. All right. Tequila, yes. Beer, no. All right, Karl, what is your fueling strategy at Wasatch in general, but at Wasatch also?
Yeah, another thing that I like to keep simple is my fuel strategy. I'm primarily a gel, electrolyte cap, water player for the most of any race, even all hundreds. I think my record gel consumption was 57 at Hard Rock one year.
Wow.
Without really anything else.
Yeah.
Maybe a little soup bouillon, salty there, tastes good when you're a little off. Pineapple, mandarin oranges are some of my favorite things that I'll also kind of munch on. But I don't really indulge in the sweets and the chips and things at aid stations because I just don't feel like I want hard. I call that hard food.
Yeah.
So
you're not an M&M potato chips.
No, I'm not the old school food, even though I started in the old school days when that's what they had on aid station tables.
Yeah.
But I started to learn the process of, like, think about it. Most people can say after 5 or 6 hours, I can't stomach another gel. Right. I get it. I totally get it. But if you're really running a race to compete and win, which for many of us that's not really the whole goal, you know. But when you're in the front, you're racing, simplicity is going to be better. Gels, you can monitor how many calories you're putting in, the caps themselves, you know what's in the cap, and you do it on a time, like everything like an IV drip, so everything's sort of on a timer, so to speak. It's always a little loose, but so to speak. And then the other bonus things that Cheryl, my crew, my wife Cheryl would do for me is just those little food items, which you'll never see hard food. I think gel, or you could use chomps or gels and that to monitor your food. I don't like drinks as much because you don't really know how much you had. Right. You don't finish the bottle. Yes, you do.
Yeah, aid station, if they have like a tailwind or something and they're mixing it.
You don't know.
You don't know, right?
No.
So
very important.
God bless them. They're there doing it, but you never know.
Thing, especially with our Speedgoat races, that I tell my aid station people, the captain, of course, is you mix it the proper way. I don't care if people want it light, add water. Yeah. You know, don't mix the light mix it what it's supposed to be. Yeah. And people know what they're drinking, even though a lot of people won't really look at that, but just one of those things. So do you keep your calories the same all throughout the race, start to finish, or does it, like, later you maybe back off a bit, or? Yeah, calories are, I mean, you want to keep them the same, but ideally what's happened to me usually is once I get to later in the race, I start to get hungry, right? Yeah. Would love a cheeseburger. I'm not gonna eat a cheeseburger then, but I'd love one. But yeah, I probably tend to consume gel more often. Never would eat 2 at a time, but it might go down every 20 minutes. Yeah. Which is 300 calories an hour. Right. Which would be the high end of what you should be taking. Right. So, but if you can consume it, it's super fast fuel. It's easy. Love it. It's easy. Yeah. No bullshitting around. Yeah. Trying to figure out what you're eating and watch your stomach go upside down. Right. Gels they're formulated to process quick. Yep. Have faith. Drink a little water when you're done with them. And next one, you know? Yep. All right, so one of the things that I've noticed with Karl is that unlike most of us who wear the running vest, Karl has got the waist pack, and I wanted him to talk about that, and specifically even at Wasatch, what's your strategy with the waist pack, how much water you're carrying, how you go about doing that.
like at a race like Wasatch. So why the waist pack, and then at Wasatch, how do you manage it?
Yeah, like I use a waist pack simply because one of my theories is, well, I don't think it's a theory, I think it's the truth, that carrying your weight on your pelvic crest is the most efficient place to carry it while you're running. Now I fully understand where a waist belt doesn't fit everyone, right? Like everyone has different hips. Some might bounce a lot, some might not bounce at all. Mine doesn't move. It's like here. But the whole beauty of the waist belt that I use is everything's accessible to my hands. There's no reaching back. It's all like right here.
So you never have to take it off.
No, I mean, if I take it off, it's like this. I just pull it off.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And this is the Ultraspire. This is a Speedgoat, right?
Speedgoat,
okay.
Yeah. So obviously, right? Of
so.
Course, but everything's here and simple. You know, the bottles. Some will say, "Doesn't come out hard." You know, you just operator.
Yeah.
It's just a learning
yeah.
curve. Any vest is a learning curve.
Right.
Any pack is a learning curve. So you get it right. So, but the reason I really don't like the vest, it serves a purpose, but it's warmer. It's warmer when it's hot out.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you could stuff ice in it. I do that too, but it's warmer when it's hot out. I feel like when many people have vests too, they're carrying more stuff because they can.
I agree with that.
Okay,
yeah.
On this pack, I have two 18-ounce bottles, so 36 ounces of water. For me, that's 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, if I feel like there's a long section, like maybe Big Mountain to Alexander, maybe kind of long for some folks, you know, you might need more water than that. So instead of carrying a pack with a bit more water, slam a bunch of water at Big Mountain Pass, and then you're covered for a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Just sort of manage it. But you got to remember to do that.
Yeah.
But you got to stay on top of that.
Yeah. And now they've taken away the Swallow Rocks aid station.
Right.
And then
That's a longer section.
And then they also rerouted Alexander Springs, which makes it longer.
Yep.
Which, in my opinion, on my last Wasatch, I was out there a lot longer than I had really planned, and I was dehydrated, and it took my stomach till Rock Springs to recover.
Right.
So, with that in mind, you know, now that Swallow's gone, you got to really.
That's a long section for these two bottles. That's a long section.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna, you know, that's something to think about. You can always carry a soft flask in your hand as a bonus.
Yeah.
So when you fill up the sessions, okay, now I got 3 bottles. You drink that one first, because carrying water in your arm is not really very efficient for weight-wise.
But you drink that one first,
drink
you
that
know.
one first,
yeah.
And then you didn't stuff it.
Right.
You can do that. Play around with things like that when you're training. Don't just do it on race day. It's cardinal rule.
Yeah.
No new stuff on race day.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know.
Yeah, what's your take on, like, so doing, this is a 2-part question. Mm-hmm. One, long runs, what's the longest run prepping for Wasatch, and then getting outside on a day long enough to kind of practice, see how you do. What's your take on all that?
I mean, the longest run I'll probably ever get anybody training for any long race, still in the 22-mile range. That's on a time frame too. I mean, the reason being is recovery time. If I say go out and do a 30-mile or a 35-miler, you're gonna need some time to recover, even if you go really slow.
Yeah.
Many people will train as time on your feet, you know. I need to go out for 8 or 9 hours today, but then they're wasted for the entire week. Right. I don't think it's effective, or as effective as it could be if you're just going quality over quantity.
Yeah.
You know, my big miles every week are in the 60s.
Yeah.
That's not a lot. It's vertical gain with places like this.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah, it's, you know,
it's beautiful.
But it's not, you know, 5 hours a day,
yeah,
you know, slogging through the woods and just kind of learning how to walk slow.
Right.
If I want to do that, I'll go do the AT, you know?
Yeah.
So, if you want to race a little faster, do a little quicker, quality is always going to help you more, I think, than just the long slogs.
Yeah.
It's okay to do it once in a while, go for a hike trip with your friends or something and put on some time, but it does obviously become super easy efforts.
Right.
So you can recover faster.
Yeah.
Think about your recovery.
Yeah.
Don't think about your gain, think about your recovery all the time.
I think something you said there, Karl, which really, I hadn't really thought of it in this way in terms of, you know, when you're talking about a long run, I always think in terms of how the long run itself is benefiting my training, but I've never really thought of how the recovery aspect is a detriment maybe to my training. And so maybe, you know, I guess that's what you're saying, right? Is
you want to learn how, you want to make sure that you can recover the next day, or at least be very close to it.
right.
You know, the theory of, again, something I don't necessarily believe in, but there's probably all kinds of science out there, but of training on really tired legs. I don't know if that's really a smart idea, because sure, you feel the tired legs, feel that in the race. Wait for the race to feel the tired legs.
Yeah.
Let your body like work as well as it can on a fresh body.
Right.
When you're training.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's a million arguments on that, but
no, it's a good.
I don't want to have to wake up in the morning. If you don't want to go running the next morning because you're so tired, then take a day off. You're too tired.
Yeah.
You're better off resting.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff.
Just, you know, I mean, we all have our ways of doing things, and no one's way is perfectly right.
No, but
just,
you know,
you try to learn from everyone.
You with your results and your experience, it holds a lot of weight. So it's something. It's good. It's good to think. All right, Karl. So from a pacing standpoint, we've got all different speeds. Folks that are going to be doing Wasatch. I'm going to have you talk a little bit about pacing. If you're trying to win Wasatch or go really fast or sub 24, what is your pacing strategy?
Well, I mean, pacing strategy at Wasatch is all relative to what the trail is, of course. But what I do with my drop bags, and again, we talked about how simple I do just the gel and stuff. I think about a 4-hour span between where I want the bag. So that way I can carry enough on-course fuel like the gel, which would be about 8 or 9 of them, easily. I also carry things in my pockets in my shorts. So at any rate, enough for 4 hours, so you don't have to rely on the aid stations completely. You don't have to have a drop bag at every stop. If you have a drop bag at every aid station, you're spending time getting your drop bag. So you try to spread it out 4 hours. You got to figure, the math is easy. How many miles an hour are you going? Where's your drop bag location? That's how I would recommend for a guy racing. The front is, in Wasatch you could do, 4 drop bags is probably enough. You just have to spread them out as best as you can,
Yeah.
Best as it works out.
And then do you have crew, like maybe supplementing? Like you have a crew that might hand you something off, or?
Well, my crew would never really, you always put your drop bag with the drop bag pile, not with your crew, because they get a flat. I can give you a good example of that shortly. They get a flat tire, something happens, and your bag's not there.
Right.
You always send your bag to the aid stations.
Right.
That's rule number 1. Yeah, your crew goes to the aid station, even if you don't have a bag there. First, if you do have a bag, they get the bag for you. They open it up, they take it out, they display it for you. So instead of them saying, "What do you want?" it's all right there.
Yeah.
This is your option, right?
Yeah.
Get it and go, and then you're done. Your crew would, what I call it leapfrogging bottles. So my crew, Cheryl, would have 2 of the same bottles already loaded and full and frozen or whatever, if it's hot. So it's all quick exchange. In my downtimes at Wasatch, I've only been like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's with checking out at Lamb's across the road.
Right.
It's a couple minutes right there walking,
Yeah.
So at any rate, 12 minutes of downtime, and you're not losing any time in the field. Once you get more than that, you're losing time on someone else.
Right.
It just has to be, you have to spread them out properly, so it's you don't need one every time.
Right. So for a back of the packer or someone just trying to finish, what do you tell them in terms of pace?
Well, for pace for someone slower is really, number 1, don't get out of your comfort zone, whatever that may be, because especially early, of course. Later on, push it at the last 10 miles, but you're hurting yourself for later on. Obviously, you've got to make cutoffs and things like that, but you control that a little bit by your pace, of course. But just kind of take it easy and keep your head down and keep your head in it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go super fast to make the cutoffs. You just have to keep moving.
Right.
Don't waste time.
Right.
You're gonna get slower later in the race, probably. It's gonna get colder at night, and if you're moving slower, you might be a little dehydrated, whatever. You might need an extra shirt. You're gonna get colder faster. you get cold a lot from also not eating.
Yeah.
Your body is a furnace, right? It's a fire. And if it's just a pile of ashes with red light instead of a burning flame, you're gonna burn down. You know, like, you've got to keep fueling the fire.
Yeah.
To stay warm, to keep moving, and not have to wear that extra shirt and jacket.
Yeah, yeah.
So another piece is like, just got to keep eating, but just the right amounts, you know?
Right. So from a pacing, if I want to win Wasatch this year, which isn't going to happen, but someone, if they do, and they are watching this, from a pacing standpoint, all right, we got to get out our crampons. Here we go.
Right.
This is where the Hoka Speedgoat perform, right? You got the nice lugs. You also got that cushion. Anyway, I'm stealing your thunder. Okay, so from a pacing standpoint.
Yeah, so back in the day when I used to race Wasatch a lot, one of the cardinal rules was the leader at Lamb's Canyon never wins, right? So at that time, Lamb's Canyon was mile 53.
Yeah.
A little different, but the leader at Lamb's never wins. I remember racing Nate McDowell. The year he did go on to win, both of us stood at the creek and we wouldn't cross the creek until the other guy went across, because we both knew that cardinal rule that the leader didn't win. I just went till like, whatever. Nate won. So that's funny pacing, but generally speaking, the other rule kind of, you know, the rabbit rarely wins. So going out really hard, banking time early, that kind of thing is probably not going to put you in a good position a mile 75 when it really matters.
Yeah.
You know, leading, if it's really, really easy, and you're that much better than everyone else, and you're jogging and leading, that's something different. But Wasatch won't be like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of think, you hold back, stay in third, fourth, fifth place. You know, don't get too far out of touch, but you don't need to be on someone's tail early, because so many things happen.
Right.
It's just...
All right, look at this.
Yeah.
What is your training strategy for Wasatch in terms of terrain, types of, you know, what do you, when you're going to train for Wasatch, what's your strategy and what kind of terrain are you running in?
I mean, to train for Wasatch, the best thing you can do is, of course, get on the course, but everything around the Wasatch Mountains here, anyway, if you're local, you've got rugged terrain very similar to the course. But if you're not local, or you can get into town for whatever reason, I think it's important to do a few sections of the course just to kind of see it, get an idea of, like, this is really rocky and chossy from Big Mountain to Lambs. It's terrible, right?
Yeah.
You've got to learn to run on that stuff. You want to train on terrain that you're going to race on. You know, you can do intervals on the treadmill all day long going uphill, but that's not going to do anything for this race. You want to be out there running on the junk and learning how to get over the rocks and the roots and the crap, and dealing with adversity, because that's, those who deal with the issues the best have the best run, you know?
Right.
You're going to have issues. You're probably going to have a bad patch, or 2 or 5 or 10, but you can always work through it. You just have to, because you got to train for it. You got to train on the junk and expect it to be hard, you know?
So do you train any different for Wasatch than other 100-milers, or is it all kind of the same?
For me, it's all kind of the same, because this is, you know, this is or was my home for a long time. And, you know, I've run a lot of flat hundreds too, and it's not my forte. I know it's not my place that I'm going to really excel, but I try to find the flat one that has the most rocks, you know, so it helps me.
Yeah.
Again, training on training you're going to race on. But I just think it really matters to just be in the same atmosphere, the whole thing.
Right.
I train the same for most races, I mean, because this is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And you know, especially now, my focus isn't really to break any record or set a time for 24 hours or anything like that. I don't care about that at all, really. I just want to be out there and be able to keep running.
And you're coaching, right?
Yeah, we're still coaching. I mean, that's been going since 2008, which is mind-boggling, and it's been 15 years.
Which I would definitely recommend. I'm going to just tell you, I typically don't use a coach, but when I have used one, I have reached out to Karl, used him, and I can just tell you I've run my fastest Wasatch 100 when Karl was helping me along there. So reach out to Karl. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to help you out, give you a lot of good nuggets in your training.
A lot of just a few tips. That's all you need, really, sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
How to strategize a little.
Well, I think the best thing for me is Karl's available anytime. He'll answer your questions. I bounce things off him all the time. You know, how I'm feeling, a particular day, what I need, just anything that's I'm thinking of at the time that I'm having an issue with. And he's there, and he's very responsive. So reach out if you need any help there. This is something that I've been waiting to ask you about, and that is your epic battle with Jeff Rose. So if you go on Ultra Sign Up and you look at who holds the course record at Wasatch, Jeff Rose had an 18:30, what is it?
18:34.
18:34, and Karl's number 2 at 19:10. Now, interestingly enough, that was the same year.
Yeah.
So, Karl, can you tell me about that race, a little bit about what happened, and what are your thoughts?
I think it was 2009.
I think so.
I think it was 2009. Anyway, we knew it was going to be a fast race. Jeff was over at my house the night before we went to the meeting. Actually, we had a little Montreal thing going on there. But at any rate, and you know, Jeff was the man. Jeff was having a great year, screaming year, as was I. Both of I had won multiple hundreds already. But the real showdown was Wasatch. We both played it off. We're both very kind of calm, you know, not very ego kind of based people. We just kind of like quietly do our thing. But Jeff and I knew that that was going to be, the race was going to be he and I. So we start the race, we go up the hill, and Jeff is a smart 100-mile runner too. He doesn't go out too hard, he doesn't bank miles. We were all kind of together there. I got a little ahead of Jeff, and then Jeff went screaming by me down the road towards Francis Sheds. That fast downhill road there, over the peak. And I was like, well, there he goes. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going with him because he's going too fast. This is too fast for me early. So I kind of held back a little bit. But as that race progressed, you know, I was getting splits from my wife where she saw me. She saw me at Francis Sheds that year because you could go there then. And then she saw me at Big Mountain Pass. I knew what his lead was, which was less than 10 minutes. Big Mountain Pass, I think it was like 8 minutes or something, which really is nothing. It seems like a lot at the time, but it really isn't that big of a deal. Jeff is still ahead of me going all the way to Lambs, and he's still ahead of me. I still couldn't really see him in my sights anywhere. Couldn't pick him up on a few locations. But when I got to the aid station, my wife said he's 5 minutes ahead. So I rallied to the aid station in about a minute. And, you know, 3 minutes ahead it is. Now I've gained some ground on him. He's slowing down. He's got Lambs to go up, which was a steep grinder. I should be able to catch him by the top. And I never caught him. I kept looking for him, but I never caught him. And I was motoring too. And, you know, the fast times come from good competition usually, you know. So I don't remember what our splits were. Our splits from Big Mountain to Lambs were probably in the 2:15 range. So we were moving. But I never caught Jeff at the pass. And then as we went down into Big Water or from Mill Creek Canyon, again, never saw him. And I knew that from a friend of mine who was crewing me at Big Water, Larry O'Neill, he told me that Jeff ran all the way up the road and he was flying up the road. And I was like, nah, it's not good. I was still going well, but I still walked some of that road.
Yeah.
And then, so Jeff probably gained time on me there. My next report sort of was Brighton. And my wife told me he was 21 minutes ahead of me at Brighton.
Wow.
So he made good time there, right? And I was still moving fast, but Jeff was going a little bit faster. And so we leave Brighton. I'm thinking 21 minutes back, like, man, to catch him, he's going to have to blow. And I got to Ant Knolls, another, 5 or 6 miles or so. And he told me 18 minutes. So I'm like, okay, now I gained 3 minutes. I'm like, all right, I'm moving forward. And so now it's really game on. This is about where the race begins, about mile 80 or so, 78 to 80 to win. And, my head was down. My legs were turning over. I was churning, diving the plunge, all that stuff. And, I just never caught him, And when I came to the finish line, I was coming around the road by the golf course there, got a mile to go. And I looked at my watch, and I was right about 19 hours at that time. And I was like, man, I'm going to run like 19, a little over 19 or whatever, and which is amazing. I wonder what Jeff's going to be, what his time's going to be. And it ends up being 18:34. And when I said to myself, I was like, I was cruising,
Yeah.
And Jeff and I are about the same level runner, at least
Yeah.
in the mountains. He's better on flat, but at any rate, it kind of blew my mind he put that much time on me.
Yeah.
So I jokingly said, well, maybe he'd cut the corner. Because no one was at Rock Springs aid station when Jeff went through. But I'm just joking around. But at the same time, man, he really slammed the end. But Jeff was always he was a good closer. He saw it at Western State, how he closed on those guys too.
Yeah.
In the Unbreakable movie. So,
yeah.
You know, I mean, he disappeared. He came back later, you know, as I would have done as well.
Right.
So it's nothing new there, but
So when do you think that record has stood for a long time? What are your thoughts on course record at Wasatch?
Yeah, I think the course record at Wasatch that Jeff ran is on a harder course. It was very, very technical. The whole end of it from Brighton was a junk.
Yeah, it is a little better now.
Yeah, it's just smoother and faster, but I don't think that's one of the greatest 100-mile records in the sport. And I think that we have, at least in this country. Sure, there's people that could challenge it, I think, but they have to come to it.
Yeah.
You know, and they have to come run a great course here.
Yeah.
One of the greatest, it's a gem of a course.
Yeah.
Really. But that time is really fast. And looking at what's won it the last couple of years, they've hovered around 20, but not under 20.
Right.
That's an hour and a half slower still.
Right.
Easier, of course. So I don't know. I don't even think by 1912 we'll go anywhere unless, you know, again, someone extra fast comes.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a couple guys really duke it out.
Yeah.
And go after a hard time. It's you know, we saw Dakota Jones, who would be a candidate for that.
Yeah.
On the list one year, but he got hurt and he couldn't make it, you know, which was really bummer. When I saw his name on the list, I was like, awesome, Dakota might have a chance chasing that record. But
didn't he move to Utah?
He does live in Salt Lake now.
Yeah, I've run into him a few times on the trails, and so Dakota, if you're out there, the challenge is on, right?
Yeah.
From the Speedgoat.
Yeah, we'd love to see him chase it. We need a guy like that to just kind of put Wasatch a little bit more back on the map. I mean, it's a fantastic race, but there's you know, the race market is saturated now. There's so many races every year and people don't even really have to travel. You know, when I started running Wasatch or started running ultras, there were 2,500 milers in the U.S. 25.
Yeah.
You know, the big ones were Wasatch, Western, Leadville, Vermont, Old Dominion, Arkansas Traveler. You know, these are really old races. This is just one of the classic old races that people should at least, if they're not entered now, you know, next year. It's a great course.
Yeah.
I got a
No,
question
for you. I have wanted to know this for a long time. Is Speedgoat a good training run for Wasatch?
Is Speedgoat a good training run for Wasatch?
And I'll give you my answer.
It kind of depends, I think. I think it's a really good question, see?
I'm gonna give my answer, and that is yes, because it's a suffer fest, and you will suffer at Wasatch, and it's also hot. And so, from my perspective, that's where it helped me. Was the heat, the heat and the suffer.
As your tune-up or your check before the race of Wasatch. The timing is good. So you've got maybe 7 weeks, I think. Good span between a race and the next race. You've got time to recover. It's really, Speedgoat is very hard, which means Wasatch, even though it's junky as I talk about, it's harder than Wasatch. So the terrain is just junk.
It is harder than Wasatch. Yeah. It's just less time, but it is harder for sure.
Right. So you think about that. If you can get through Speedgoat and say, wow, okay, that wasn't too bad, or now I know what to expect. When you run Wasatch, it's going to seem a little bit easier because the terrain's a little bit, I wouldn't say a little bit smoother in most places. So it is a good, I mean, timing wise, it's great. It's again, it makes you tough, makes you hurt, and that's what Wasatch is going to do to you anyway. So
yeah,
it is a good, I agree. It's a good training.
Yeah, I would say from the standpoint of the suffer and being in the heat. Oh yeah. A Speedgoat is still, I want to say it's like the hardest race I've run. I mean, obviously, I think Wasatch is different. It's just longer. But the suffering at Speedgoat in that short time, wow.
Yeah, short suffer fest. You know, the hardest race I think I've ever run was the Hurt 100. It's because it's so rooty and gnarly. Just staying on your feet is a challenge.
Right.
And it's just, there's so many out there, though. I mean, there's so many great races around the U.S. and in Europe Europe is a whole nother, is kind of next level. The trails aren't harder, Well, they're not more technical, but everything's 1,000 feet per mile. So,
Right.
for the most part. So like, it's, you know, to train for that, you got to train 1,000 feet a mile. So I guess I moved to Colorado for a reason.
Right.
Because everything in the San Juans is about 1,000 feet a mile.
You can just do West Granger repeats.
Or do West Granger repeats. Yeah, but yeah, it's like that. It's hard. So, you know, everyone can judge what race is the hardest, but I never claimed Speedgoat to be the hardest, toughest 50K, but
I just did.
I'll always, yeah, he did, but
Yeah.
But I'll just say that no race is the toughest. It's just, this is one of the tougher ones.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's all subjective it's like, who's the greatest ultra runner of all time? It's who's the best of their era.
Right.
Everybody's different. Like Michael Jordan said about basketball.
Well, there's ways you can judge that, and one of the ways is, you know,
how dominant.
Who has the most? You're talking eras, but I'm going to say who has the most 100-mile wins of all time.
Right.
Well, right now you're the GOAT, right? The Speedgoat.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's the way. Yeah. How many basketball championships do you have? But the thing is, like, you know, people are getting faster, and my times are. It's funniest thing about my hard rock time, 26:39. When I ran that, no one ever gonna touch that. Untouchable. It's 21:35 now.
Yeah.
I knew it could be faster because I knew what I did out there and things happened. But you look back and it's like just another era.
Right.
Everybody's so much faster.
Right.
These days.
Well, we got a lot of faster people into the sport now. It seems like, you know, you're getting a lot of faster runners.
And a lot of, you know, look at guys like Hayden Hawks and Walmsley, two of my Hoka teammates. Those guys have run sub 14 5Ks, right?
Yeah.
Granted, it's hard to translate that to a 100-miler, but that's speed.
Yeah.
That's freaking speed. And my best was 16:19.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to throw this out there just for fun. I don't have very many course records on Strava, but one I do have, I'm actually beating Walmsley. I'll have to show you that proof later. But
he wasn't with his wife Jess, was he? She's pretty fast too.
No, it was actually on Mount Rainier, so he was going uphill, right?
Right.
Okay.
Nice. Mount Rainier, nice.
Yeah. We threw out to Dakota. Now here we're going to throw out. I'm going to Walmsley. I doubt he's watching this, but someone let him know. And also Killian. What are your thoughts on Walmsley or Killian running Wasatch? What do you think they would do?
Yeah, well, I think we put out the invites to the fastest guys in the sport right now, which is Killian, Jim, Francois, and there's a number of guys that are on that level. And we'd love to see what a guy like that, or any of the faster girls, Courtney DeWalter, to come here to Wasatch and run. What did she do here?
Yeah.
You know? Ann Tracy still holds the record here, 22 hours in 2000.
Dude, I'd love to see what Courtney would do.
In 1998, that's the first year I ran. That's the year we're in that time.
Yeah.
But at any rate, what would those guys do out here? I mean, I would say they'd challenge Jeff's record, probably beat it, because the course is a little easier. But I still think Jeff's time is fairly equivalent to what those guys could do on that course.
Right.
But man,
that'd be fun to watch, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we have to kind of tear them away from UTMB.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, I think when they get older, like I am, maybe they'd run races like this and see what they can do. They can still do it. I mean, I did it in 2006, and I was in my 30s, but I run fast in my early 40s too.
Right.
And those guys are still only like 30 years old.
Right.
So I'd love to see guys like that race here.
Right. So Karl, you've got a streak going, 20 years in a row of a 100-mile win, or 100-mile win in 20 straight years, right?
Right.
And this year, what do you got on deck?
Yeah, so on deck at the moment, which I'm not going to win all three of them, would be Eastern States 100, August 12th, Pine to Palm, September 9, and Arkansas Traveler, October 7. Those are all stacked pretty tight together, but my goals have kind of focus on my goals have changed a little bit, just to finish 100 hundreds. So when I do those races, knowing that I'm not going to be at the front, I get there by default, and I'm damn right I'm going to race to win. But I don't think I'm at that level anymore. So finishing 100 hundreds would be special. So my focus is just a little different. So stacking them a little tighter together. My recovery time in between is mostly about recovering, not really training hard for the next one, because I know how to do it. You know, I was saying to Scott, I can be ready in 20 minutes for a 100-miler. I had to pack